End of 2008, we started Zalando, and then did like a very first test with flip-flops.
If you want to start a business with flip-flops, it must be in Germany at least. How did it go?
It went well. We actually bought flip-flops from the stores and just sold it online. We scaled in Germany in 1 year from 6 million in revenues to 150 million in revenues.
1 year, okay.
So that was the second year. So first year 6 million, second year 150 or 160 million, third year 500 million. Huh?
What would you say that makes the success of Zalando? What is the recipe?
The broad proposition that Zalando brought to consumers was the democratization of fashion. Huh? No matter where you live, like Paris, close to Champs-Élysées, or if you live actually in the north of Finland, that you have the same kind of convenience and access to fashion and lifestyle, which you didn't have like 15 years ago. At the time, there was just no scalable solutions out there. And we even had, when we started off with our own servers, the shop software is our own, the logistics software is our own. So these are like really the very big, important points of differentiations that we actually are developing on our own.
So if I want to launch my e-commerce website, I can do it almost fully on Zalando technology and infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really catered for the very small ones yet. It's better for enterprise grade.
Bon, j'ai un énorme problème. Ce problème, c'est que vous êtes uniquement 42% à regarder, à écouter ce podcast, à être abonné. C'est pas normal. En tout cas, si vous vous abonnez, ça nous aide énormément pour plein de choses, pour avoir des super invités, pour faire un meilleur travail, pour avoir une meilleure équipe. Donc, abonnez-vous. C'est un simple, tout petit clic maintenant. Si c'est juste la première fois que vous écoutez, c'est OK. Et si vous revenez, abonnez-vous maintenant. Vous nous rendrez un énorme service. Faites-le maintenant et je vous remercie énormément.
Robert, welcome to Zalando. I'm happy to have you in your place, actually.
Yeah, thank you for coming by here in Berlin.
We're so happy. I've read somewhere that when you launched your first startup, was it your first in Monterrey?
Monterrey, yeah.
¿Hablas español?
Sí, hablo español.
Un poquito. Yo hablo solo un poquito. You were so broke when you went... when you went bankrupt, that you couldn't pay your flight tickets back to Germany. Is that true? Or is that...
Yeah, it's... I still had my parents, but I think me and my co-founder, we couldn't really afford that to... Yeah, we didn't have enough money on our bank account to actually buy a flight back at the time. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, many years ago, 23. I think I was 23.
Okay.
I was 24.
But it's not that long ago. I mean, it was like 20 years ago or something like this.
Yeah, so 17 years ago.
Yeah. So I mean, well, you've worked a lot in the meantime, but
that's true. That's true.
And was it the same founders with whom you created Zalando with?
Yeah, so it's my co-founder of Zalando, David, and I, and in the very first company we started before Zalando. Its name was Unibicate. It was like a Latin American social network, and there was like a few co-founders, like one co-founder from Mexico, one from Chile. So there were a couple of more, but yeah, it was David and me, and then David and me we then afterwards started Zalando.
Interesting. Well, I have so many questions for you. If you agree, we'll talk about. Of course, a lot of Zalando, about Europe, about Germany, about maybe logistics, about AI, hopefully agentic AI, the future of e-commerce. What else? I mean, many things I have in mind. The German market, I have so many questions about that and how can you go onto the German market? Maybe it's easier for you because you're from here, but it seems for foreigners or French people, I mean, it seems as Fort Knox somehow. I mean, and
I mean, it's probably the same for Germans entering into French markets.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. You'll tell me the difficulties you have or you see when you go to France, and maybe what you can tell for to other entrepreneurs how to go to France, maybe. But before all of this, if you allow me, would you introduce yourself?
So I'm Robert, founder of Zalando. So I'm 42 years old. Yeah, live in Berlin. Yeah, and entrepreneur in Germany.
Okay. So when did you start Zalando? You said
end of 2008 we started Zalando.
Okay. Was it from the very beginning with rocket internet, or did the Samwer brothers came afterwards?
No, I mean, you asked me a bit about the Latin American startup. So we had first Latin American startup, which we kind of built for a couple of months, and then we actually didn't work out, and then we actually got back first of all to Spain. Yeah, so we found a deal that we have like a startup in Spain and got some flights to Madrid. Then helped this company for a while, and the Zalando brothers, they were actually early investors in this company, and we got a bit in touch with them. And then David and I, we really were debating with ourselves in the evenings while living in Madrid what we actually shall do next. And I think then in the end we actually decided that e-commerce would be actually a great opportunity for us. And the Zalando brothers, they were as well like interested in financing e-commerce. And then we said, okay, well, I mean, maybe that's actually a good opportunity. So we then we selected as a first kind of idea to actually do e-commerce with shoes.
Okay.
So, and that was I think mid 2008. Yeah. And we went back to Germany. So David and I went to my parents' place, and then really got into like all the details. What is actually how does actually shoe market actually work, and how do you do buying? How do you get like a selection? What are the margins? How important are the brands? How does it work with audience sizing? And it really got into it and to understand it, and then did like a very first test with flip-flops. So
you were selling flip-flops.
Yeah, we went to Berlin, and then the very first shop that we set up was like flip-tops. It's called, yeah, Flo.
Okay.
So I think if you today actually probably it's still works. So if you type in flip-tops, you still get redirected to Zalando. It was the very first version of it.
Okay, I have to be a bit tacky, can you say, or sassy? Yeah, with a German talking about flip-flops, because yesterday we arrived here and Axel, you've met our tech like a video guy, arrived and said he was with the flip-flops and socks, and we were like, what the fuck? And he said, well, if there is one city where I can be with socks and flip-flops, it's Berlin. And we're like, okay, you're right, got it.
It's still like a German reputation, right? To have like the white socks and the flare. So
if you want to start a business with flip-flops, it must be in Germany at least. So how did it go?
It went well. So I mean, we actually bought flip-flops from the stores, so and just sold it at the same price then actually online.
Real proof of concept.
Real proof of concept. We did that was, I think, the only time in my life where really programmed was like not really programmed, but I configured like a Trattoria shop and like with HTML and so on and so forth. And then we put it online and did search engine marketing, and it actually worked. So we got in a couple of days, we got up to like 30 orders of flip-flops a day. And really saw like this conversion funnel of like people searching for flip-flops in the internet, and then getting on our site, like, how important the payment options are, how important like the return options are. So there was a lot of good proof of concept, and then we said, okay, well, now it's time to start a really like an e-commerce destination for shoes.
Incredible. Well, the flip-flops have one easy thing, is that probably the size is less an issue than for regular shoes, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you still had like some level. So we learned something about returns, but what we learned as well about returns was that so I think that people actually can return is actually as well a very good thing for the customer value, because if you if people actually know, like, I can order and I can still give it back, if it doesn't fit, and it's easy enough, so they save a lot of other things. They don't have to go into the cities and just search for the specific items and so on. So it really is this trade-off between like I can order and still return it, or I actually have to take all this other effort. And we realized that this is actually quite an important aspect, that you make it easy for people to return, so that they have the feeling, I take the decision actually at home, and not one extra order.
Which is, I mean, a really big thing, and you'll explain me about, because there are some difference in the market rate, as I understand. But so one of my Bible when I was in some e-commerce business was obviously Delivering Happiness from Tony Hsieh.
Yeah.
In 2008, was Zappos already bought by Amazon or not yet? You remember?
No, I think it was not yet bought, but it was big. Yeah. So, and I think it as well helped. So Zappos was an American shoe e-commerce company. I think there was probably like $800 million at the time. So it was a big company, and this actually helped a bit in terms of framing investor narrative. Like, yes, there's a company like in the US that actually can as well like get to a significant scale with it. So that actually helped. And then I think 2 years later, I think it got bought by Amazon, I think 2010.
On est tous d'accord sur un truc, quand on monte une nouvelle boîte, on aimerait tous qu'elle finisse comme Mistral, Anthropic, OpenAI. En revanche, je connais pas grand monde dont le rêve soit de gérer la TVA en Allemagne, les moyens de paiement au Japon ou les litiges clients en Corée. Et c'est exactement la raison pour laquelle existe Stripe, mon partenaire. Et cette année, Stripe fête ses 10 ans en France. Et quand on regarde quelle société utilise Stripe en France, H Company, Miracle, Mistral, Dust, on comprend très vite pourquoi et comment ils sont allés aussi vite. Il n'y a pas besoin de réinventer la roue, parce qu'ils sont adaptés à tout. La facturation, à l'usage, à l'abonnement, au token, tout ça, ils ont déjà fait 1000 fois. Je vous souhaite une chose, que votre startup devienne mondiale. Et bien pour ça, Stripe est là, Stripe est prêt. Le déploiement, bam, d'un coup, plus de 135 devises, la conformité fiscale, la gestion de la fraude, les paiements locaux, toute cette plomberie-là, compliquée, Stripe s'en occupe et vous vous concentrez sur votre business, sur votre produit. Alors rendez-vous maintenant sur stripe.com/startups avec un S. C'est stripe.com/startups. Allez-y maintenant. Allez, on reprend l'épisode.
This book is still a great book, I believe.
Yeah.
You've read it, no?
I read it in the beginning.
Yeah.
I read it in the beginning to understand what it is. I think the essence of creating customer value is a very valuable essence to really digging deep into what customers really want. I think what we, though, as founder, maybe it was a German culture thing, is that, I mean, it's creating a customer contact and a customer care just for actually talking to customers is not really what the Germans wanted an efficient process.
Yeah? Okay.
So they were just so like customer contact and customer care is actually something that we rather actually considered like a after some time actually as a failure. So then when actually something breaks, people actually call you.
Yeah,
so
what you're saying is that
processes. Yeah.
A big thing of the book is that you could call Zappos customer service and order pizza, and they would sort it out for you. That was his big thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the customer care is the main driver of customer value, which I think was not really our insight. Yeah? So
interesting. That's a cultural, thing, misfit somehow. Maybe that is. Nothing is universal on that side.
No. But I think what still is universal, I think that people, they love convenience, they love selection, they love when you're friendly, they love when your problems get solved. I think there's a couple of universal insights, but I think what was not really the for us at least not the learning is that we that whenever a customer called us, that this is actually always the opportunity to create customer value, because I think there's a lot of customer value that you can actually create by that actually just works and people don't have to call you.
So when you launched in France, we had probably at the same time, they still exist, a big brand called Sarenza. They were still one of your competitors, but were they already launched, or I'm just trying to understand
I think they were two. There was Sarenza and Spartoo.
Oh yeah,
there were two of them.
Which was big, Spartoo at some point, yeah?
I think they were big. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they are today. They were big. I think they were very focused on shoes.
Yeah.
At the time, I think we launched in France. I think 2010.
Okay. Well, fast. Okay.
Yeah. I think 2010. I think we launched January 2010. I remember.
So when we talk about, I've received a few entrepreneurs going through Rocket Internet. Can you explain how, did you end up working with them? Was it after this first website you built at your parents' house, or was it from the very beginning? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? And can you explain what makes it different working with such a partner?
So one of the brothers, Oliver, like he was at same university that David and I went to. So that's why we knew of him. And his younger brother Alexander is the one that we actually were most in touch with, like which I would consider as well like a good friend now. They started the Rocket Internet pretty much like in parallel to Zalando. Huh? So I think they started as well like 2008. So while we actually built up Zalando, I think that was in parallel. It was as well the build up of Rocket Internet structures were built. So and I think Rocket Internet was at the time was more focused on Groupon. There was a couple. I'm not sure if you know these companies.
Yeah,
Groupon,
of course I remember. It was so big. They got even bigger shares than Groupon founders when they got bought back by the American company. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I think at Zalando, like we were, as we were building up in parallel, I think we were already a bit bigger when actually Rocket was as well bigger. So I think there was interactions and joint learnings. But I think the person that I worked that was I think the most helpful I think was Alexander Sommer back in this, because he was really. If I would consider, I think one person a mentor, I think probably would actually say like that was actually Alexander in the days, because he had a lot of good experience, but he was as well like very good, support and challenge partner. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So always in terms of like, are you thinking about this like big enough? Are you thinking detailed enough? So I think it was a very good very good challenge partner.
Just to contextualize and to make sure, and absolutely no offense on what I'm saying, but would you reckon like Zalando was kind of a copycat or up for Zappos, or not really, or very different?
Well, at the end,
which I have no judgment. I don't care. It's just
no. In the end, like it's an e-commerce company for shoes. Yeah? So it's not a. I think what helped back in the days was to have like anywhere in the world to be able to pinpoint to like a company that actually worked already at scale. Yeah? So I think I tried to say like Zalando was a copycat, because I think like that's never how I felt about it, and it's e-commerce for shoes, but obviously, like we as well used in our like investor, like there's a company Zappos in US, 800 million or like $1 billion at this stage.
So it helps
and
when you need to raise money.
helps to raise money, at least back in the days. Huh? So I think back in the days it was very, very hard, I think, in Europe to raise money if you couldn't really say like anywhere in the world that already has.
That's how you had the Uber of and the Facebook of whatever, and
exactly,
then
and there was time
Airbnb of camping cars and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That was probably the time when you saw like, a lot of these.
If you recall, because back in the days, there were many issues. Ordering shoes online was not. You would say, I will never do that. It could be, audible at some point. Building a website was not like I'll go on, Shopify.
Shopify, no.
And even for just getting the money and getting paid online was much harder. Stripe or stuff like this. Can you explain how did you start with all of this and the journey now? Is it still your tech? I've seen that a lot of companies recently, I think it's Vinted actually, they have their own Vinted Pay, don't they? I think they don't use how do you call it, USP or
PSP?
PSP, yeah. Can you explain me, where did you start? How did it evolve? What were kind of part of your successes in those areas?
When we started 2009, there was like the ecosystem of how you would start a company was, totally different than an ecosystem I think that you actually have today. So so like the shop software that we actually had as a choice. I mean, there were not that many. So the shop software we actually used was an open source software at the beginning, Magento. What's called?
Okay, yeah, of
Magento.
course, yeah. Magento, yeah.
Magento. And
it was
painful.
Yeah.
Painful, yeah. No, it was, and I mean, we went out of it like after 2 years because it was not even any more scalable, and we had built our own shop softwares.
You did, okay.
So I mean, so back in the days it was Magento. It was, I mean, a couple of others that we actually used. But for example, payment, like obviously we had payment companies involved, but what we actually very soon did was paying per invoice, like the Klarna model, that you actually get sent something and you actually get it on consumer credit. We actually started to build by ourselves because there was no Klarna. Yeah? So,
okay.
So we ended up doing actually a lot of the stuff actually on ourselves in the end, because at the time there was just no scalable solutions out there. Yeah? So and we even had when we started off, we had our own servers. Huh? So we were not on AWS or any cloud. So we really started like in a very, very controlled, do it all yourself manner. I mean, by today, we still have a lot on our own, but we constantly as well ask ourselves what are actually things where we actually don't really have to develop it anymore by ourselves, because just the ecosystem has become just so valuable. But we still, for example, we do a lot of the payment stuff. We do the paying per invoice is still something we do in-house, at least in Germany. The shop software is our own. The logistics software is our own. So these are like really the very big, important points of differentiations that we actually are developing on our own.
I think it's very difficult call to make these days. I mean, I understand that a lot of companies are trying to, for example, you were talking about the cloud, are trying to go back on their own cloud because some of the providers, not naming them, such as Google, AWS or Microsoft and so on, are becoming so expensive that, I mean, it takes their margin because the Salesforce is taking your margin, because Google ads and Meta ads, and at the end you get the Stripe and you get like, I don't know, you name them, but logistics and everything. And then at the end, someone told me the other day, I'm going to get rid of my... one of those I've just named, but and I will probably raise my EBITDA of like 10%. And you're like, what the fuck? I mean, this is, and so it seemed at some point the message was you have to go the easy way and just use everything that's on the shelf and just grow, and then you'll see. Yeah. And it seems it's not that true anymore. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, yesterday I spoke to as well like a founder who like an AI company from Germany, who is runs on AWS, and all of a sudden actually considers to do it now himself, like as an early stage company. And I find it interesting, like that. I mean, these questions now come up again, but it's very, very hard to actually like build this and actually be differentiated, and in a more efficient way, because these services are priced in a way that is just so much, like you just have to do so much more, so much work more to actually get the feature parity that you actually just would receive in these services. I mean, it's a hard question, so maybe now with the age of AI and how coding is actually now becoming so, so easy, or like so much code actually can be written by AI, that I think these questions actually get a little bit more open again. But it's there's a lot of skill sets of running your own that have been here like in Europe. I'm not sure like where they are anymore, so they need to be rebuilt then.
Yeah, it's true that if you take just logistics or as you said, cloud computing. Just going on like your own servers and redundancy and like all over the world, and
Yeah, it's
something you
a lot.
probably don't want to do, and it takes a lot of investments.
It's not our that's not our approach.
Okay. Can you give me some numbers about Zalando today? I've heard like you were 7,000 just here in Berlin. Is it something
like employees, you mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, most numbers are public. Yeah? So like 7,000 in Berlin. I think we have 17,000 employees. I think that Zalando like employs. We don't employ like all the logistics centers. So a lot of logistics centers we don't employ. So we have companies that actually employ or like that employ the workers at 17,000. In terms of top level numbers, I think it's this year about like 20 billion GMV.
Wow. I was at 16, so probably that was last year, right?
GMV, like the broadly, yeah. So it's so
20 billion. Wow.
20 billion GMV, yeah. So across like all our consumer business, just broadly, yeah. So and profits between 650, 750 million profits. We have a B2C business, which is mostly powered by 3 different apps. So we have the Zalando app, About You app, and the Lounge, or Zalando Privé, like the Lounge app. And then we have B2B business that we started 2 years ago, which is basically that we offer the service that we built as an e-commerce platform for ourselves, now to brands that they not only run their business on Zalando, but as well outside of Zalando through these services.
So like the Amazon fulfillment, or kind of.
But broader. Huh? So we because when a brand, for example, like is active on the Zalando marketplace, on the partner business, and actually has use our fulfillment service to actually fulfill the orders and get the benefits of joint orders, they can as well use the similar kind of service now for their own direct-to-consumer business, so for their own brand website, but as well for other marketplaces, so that they can actually all manage it through our systems. So that's the logistics side, and then we have as well an e-commerce shopper with scale that we bought 2 years, like one year ago with About You.
Okay, great. So if I want to launch my e-commerce website, I can do it almost fully on Zalando technology and infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really catered for the very small ones yet.
Okay.
So the shop software now. So so Scale is much more like a software which is better for enterprise grade companies. So like, for example, recently Levi's announced today that so more these kind of bigger brands.
Okay.
But and Zeos as a fulfillment service is well a bit more geared towards bigger brands, but eventually we will as well be better for the smaller ones.
So what about the cloud then? That's going to be the next. Will you?
Yeah, I mean, I think somehow
Zalando web service.
Yeah, I mean, somehow the way of how we actually think about our B2B efforts is there's some similarities towards like a cloud setup, because you, instead of like building like an e-commerce solution or like e-commerce warehouse somewhere in Europe, on your own, and investing all the capex, and then actually doing all the stitching, so in order to be able to fulfill to France, you have to connect these and these providers. In order to fulfill to Switzerland, you have to connect to a custom solution, or Norway, and so on. So there's just so much stitching that you have to do from e-commerce perspective if you actually run it as a separate silo service. And instead you actually get Zeos, you get the entire network of Zalando, everything, and you just pay as you use it. And you get as well the benefit that you have like one inventory in one system, and you don't have like separate inventory systems where you have to like discount the merchandise separately. And we invest a lot into this network. So in all these investments and new capabilities, you always get actually marginally at low cost.
Are you saying
so? It has similarities.
Are you saying that it's very difficult to grow in Europe because of all of these specificities, local fiscal, tax or?
Yeah. I think what we say is, I think a lot of the reason why Zalando was so successful in the last 16, 17 years because of the beautiful complexity of Europe. Yeah? So because it is actually, although it's like 400 million people, but it's not like 400 million people in one single market. Yeah, so there's like so many different languages. There's so many different, payments, logistics systems. Legislations, and so it is not like one single market from e-commerce perspective. Yeah? So it's very hard to actually like build an offer for all these different countries.
Some people some people say, I've read recently, that it's kind of we have our own tariffs. It's not a fiscal. Like a tariff that is. But it's a logistical and framework. Tariff. It could be up to some countries up to 100% tariffs because they're so difficult to get in.
Yeah, I think it's more self-made regulatory, cultural terrorists. I think.
But should it change? At some point, it's working well for you with those because you've cracked them somehow. Maybe you wouldn't have any interest. I'm talking on your side, but because if it's easier, then maybe you'll get more competitors somehow.
Well, I think then we probably would have like needed to work, 40-50% less on this stuff, and then we would have more time to actually crack other stuff. So maybe that's. I think it's some of the. It's a driver of our success that we're more focused on these European particular problems. But yeah, I think overall, for Europe, it would be much better if it's just, one simple, single market that really makes it easy to actually build. That's in the end, like, if you compare ourselves to the US or to China, it's such a big market actually. Yeah. But I think we make it actually very, very hard to just build, big companies in this market because it's so.
What you're saying is it's such a big market in theory. But which is not such a big market, practically speaking. Do you believe it can change?
If I believe I can change, I hope it can change. Yeah, yeah. I hope that that we as Europeans we see that. I think. In this race around relevancy that I think is actually happening, I think right now in China or the US, that I think we can only win this, I think, together, because I think all the single individual markets are just too small. It's like neither is Germany, neither is France. We're all a little bit too small, but I think together we can be very, very powerful. But I think we need to be able to, or be willing actually to work together, and as well see the bit like of our national interest sometimes towards like just for the greater good, to just create a good path for Europe ahead. That's my hope. Yeah.
So yeah, it's my hope too. Speaking of, we're talking about some difference, which are good things, being different, and let's get back to that question I had earlier on about, let's say, differences between French and German markets. Yeah. My understanding of a German market is that, so the volume of e-commerce is much bigger than in France. Like no comparison. And but it's also very complex, because I've heard, I don't know if it's still true, but a long time ago, that the volume of returns is also very big here, much more than in France and in other countries. Yeah. Can you explain me the cultural differences? Yeah. And let's start by that.
Yeah,
and maybe some other countries I'd be interested in some very specific stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I personally started to appreciate how different actually Europe is when we international. So we stayed for 1.5 years only in Germany with Zalando, and then we started to internationalize. In the first country was Netherlands, and in Germany we were hugely successful with our TV spot that we had in Germany, which was a TV spot that was. Like you can imagine, there's a guy sitting like in a wardrobe, like it's all dark, and then he whispers in the camera, like, "Don't ever let your wife discover Zalando.de." So it was 2010, yeah. So 2009, 2010. Yeah. So and because it ruined my life. Yeah. And then like shoes everywhere, and then the postman rang at the door, and like wife is screaming, and he screams. So it was like the scream. Yeah? So the scream of joy. Yeah? That was our brand. So it was hugely successful. We scaled in Germany from in 1 year from 6 million in revenues to 150 million in revenues. So in 1 year. Yeah?
1 year, okay.
1 year. So that was the second year of operation. So and then we, and then in the third year, so that was the second year. So first year 6 million, second year 150 or 160 million, third year 500 million. Yeah?
Oh my
so
God!
the
logistic, the cash, everything must have been such a nightmare.
Yeah. So I got a lot of sleepless nights in these times. But like in this time, we then actually said, okay, let's try as well to think: is it actually not only a German thing, but actually can we actually operate more European wide? So we actually went into Netherlands and we had like a Dutch team there and asked like just take this TV spot, because I mean it's
working.
It's working, yeah. So it is, we see the numbers, like it's working. It really helped us to get from 6 to 150 million. And like the Dutch team said, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? I mean, it said they just don't get the humor, so it will be horrible humor. I said, come on, I mean, Dutch, German, I mean, it's
we're brothers, right?
It's similar, yeah. So it's similar. And we added, and then I just forced them to actually add a TV spot, and it was, I mean, we got so much shit in Netherlands for this TV spot, because it was, I mean, like this gender role kind of cliche thing was still like humor in Germany. I mean, today it wouldn't work at all anymore, but it was humor in Germany, but it was not at all humor anymore in Netherlands. So we really got a lot of shit. I think we earned the prize for the worst TV spot and the worst brand in Netherlands at the same time when we actually won the prize for the most effective brand in Germany. So, and I think that taught me something around like, you know, how actually nations are then different. So, and then we
one question, Robert, before we go to the next. Did it sell at the end? I mean, getting a bad advertising and the worst brand.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you know, sometimes you just say there is no such press as bad press. People knew that Zalando was selling shoes and maybe doing it well. Yeah. So did it sell?
Yeah. So I mean, so it still worked commercially, because I mean, we brought such a big selection we built up in Germany to Netherlands, which was unseen. So the proposition actually worked. Yeah. But the TV advertising just didn't work as well in terms of helping in the conversion funnel of, like, you know, so and it really, like in Germany it was, I mean, at the time people made jokes around like the brand, and it was like always a friendly joke, like screams in the streets when people actually saw, like, you know, people carrying it with packages. And in Netherlands it was like people were ashamed when they ordered at Zalando. So it didn't really help that much. Huh? So and we really had like very bad brand mechanics, and we really had to invest a lot to actually get these and with different TV spots and like more local ones to actually get it up. So that's why I learned like how actually different actually Germany, like Europe is culturally. And then as next step we actually tried then the French market, and there was and I remember it was actually January, and we launched in the French market, and like the number, like it was really staggering revenues with it. Huh? And at the time I didn't really understand, like, you know, that the sold is really like a cultural thing. Yeah. So it was at the time such a cultural phenomenon. So the French sold, so everyone really buys. So I just saw these numbers and was comparing. I said, okay, wow. I mean, France, that might be done now. So now let's move on to next month. So, and then like after sold were over, like our numbers actually went down to basically zero again. So okay, well, this is really tough one. Huh? So.
So for people who don't know, sold, if you're English speaking, sold in January are big, and in June, and it's sales slow. So it's and it's kind of legal. So you have a certain period of time. So in January and June, and that's it, right? Probably, and merchants or sellers are allowed to like go on massive discounts, and so people just buy
buy massively. Yeah?
Massively discounts, and at this time, so it sells quite a lot, but it's specific, and you understand that you cannot get everything.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the sizes, all of the colors, all of I mean, it's specific. You just have, but yeah, you don't buy anything but sold at that moment.
So, I mean, obviously, the gross margin was not great, but I thought like, wow, this volume that I mean, so now everyone knows, and like, and I just was projecting like similar patterns of like Germany and Netherlands. I said. I famously said at the time, like to the teams, then I think France is done now. Like we can move on to the next market, and then like our numbers tanked, and I still get necked by the state when I that of this phrase that I said, because it continued to always be like a very, very difficult market, because it's just a very different kind of pattern of consumers and of taste as well. Return behavior is very different, so it continues to be very different.
Is it still a difficult market, you say?
I mean, it's always a market. I think like now it's big, and we're happy with our numbers, and but it always is a different market. It's always is a market where I think where you really have to think differently and allow the country management a lot of different mechanics to actually test out. It works very differently from Nordics or from Germany.
We're a lot about price, I would say. It's
a lot about price. A lot of price. Like return behavior is very different. I mean, it's interestingly even. So the French, they probably return half the time than actually Germans do, but they're much more driven by price. And interestingly, even like in Switzerland, you have like the French speaking and the German speaking, and like and although it's the same kind of country, the French speaking part actually returns much less than actually German speaking. But the German speaking part is then returns more, but the CLVs are actually often higher because they're more loyal to the brand. So they can come back. In French, you have to reacquire and reconvince them a lot more.
Yeah, I can feel that. Definitely, yeah. 100%. So what do you sell today? It's not only shoes. You sell bags. You sell.
So I think we consider the scope of Zalando very much on of lifestyle. Yeah? So everything that is kind of emotional is where brands play a big role. So we work across 7,000 brands at Zalando. So brands play a role, emotions play a role, where products can as well be like very individual. Like, you know, one T-shirt you like, I mean, I might not like. Yeah? So it doesn't depend on the T-shirt. It rather depends on the eye of the beholder. Yeah? And so where emotions play a big role. So it's fashion, it's sports is a big focus of ours at the moment. We have beauty. We recently as well have a couple of items in home. So it's a very broad range, and I mean overall it's a roughly like a 500 billion euro market.
So you can sell sofas and makeup.
No, sofas not. So everything which you can actually deliver in a box. So not with two men handling. If
I take Amazon, they're probably like 14 years older than Zalando. They used to sell books.
Yeah.
You started with shoes. How come there is no European Amazon, would you say?
In the US, you mean? Or
in Europe. I mean, there is no like real... I mean, you could be the one somehow. You could be selling... I mean, you choose to be in the lifestyle, but you could be selling books, or you could be selling... I mean, everything I find on Amazon, like, is that a deliberate choice? Is it something that's going to come, or... and how comes there is no one else yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a choice that we made is to not go like in the general merchandise direction, because once you actually are in the general merchandise direction, there is a lot about functionality. It's a lot about price. Yeah? And I mean, it has its benefits, but I think Amazon already has a very, very big, very good and big scale. And we actually found that the challenges that you have in the lifestyle space, they're actually so interesting and deep. Yeah? I mean, there's just so many things that are not yet solved. I mean, like if you just still consider like size and fit. Yeah. So in fashion. So how many times you actually order something it doesn't fit, which is still not a completely solved problem, or it's such a long tail of products. So how do you really bring consumers to the right product that is actually the right product for them personally in a very short amount of time? So there's and so much kind of emotions that you actually can have in this shopping journeys that are not yet really digitally consumable. So there's just so many things in fashion lifestyle that we feel are not yet solved, and our focus is rather actually on solving those kind of problems. And I mean, we have 20 billion roughly for 500 billion European market. So we're still like small in our own market, and the entire e-commerce penetration in this market is still like only 30%. So 70% of this market is still like in offline. Yeah? So it's like in bricks and mortar. So I think there's just so much more potential to just focus in this area. And I think it's as well very credible towards consumer to actually have a destination where you rather actually go for these shopping journeys and not for I want to have like a washing machine. I want to have it fast. I want to have a book, and I know exactly what I want. So that we focus on.
It's interesting because on the e-commerce champions, I would say in Europe, people are going in so many different directions, right? I mean, I've had on this podcast many of them, including a couple of founders of VP, Vente Privée, or founder of Coca. You might know him, Pascal Mercier in Switzerland. And I mean, some of them, they just started with, probably shoes or stuff like this. And then they sell wine, and they're very big on wine. You're like, what happened? And like very, very big. And then they have their own, for Coca, their own logistical chain for selling wine across Europe with transports. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, weird. But then it works. That's weird. It's a good idea. But have you ever tried some weird path that didn't work, or what are your strangest ideas that worked or didn't work?
The strange ideas that we
or the big fails, I don't know, both.
The big well, I mean, the big obviously, like you're like over like 16 years, you sometimes try stuff that doesn't fit. Like we tried actually early on, I think 2012 or so, we tried like a luxury platform that didn't work. So which was not at a part like actually really our DNA. That we could really actually work with luxury brands and really bring like another experience, and we couldn't really leverage our own operation so much for that. So there was luxury.
Like Farfetch or
something. It was like this direction, Farfetch and Net-a-Porter and those brands. So we as well tried actually like consumer to consumer secondhand actually at a similar time when Vinted, but we as well felt like this consumer to consumer model is so far from our DNA. Because as an e-commerce company, you're very focused on process. Actually, things actually work, and for consumer to consumer, it works a little bit more as a social network as well, like messy as well sometimes. Which in our DNA, we always want to fix the process, and that makes it like a little bit more not as entertaining as sometimes as well. So those kind of were weirder things where we just after 1 or 2 years actually gave up.
So you tried to one Vinted like business.
I think while it was called Circled actually. So it had some combinations with Zalando. So you could actually you could trade in like all the Zalando items as well that you had, and then but as well like upload own items, and could leverage a little bit the customer account of Zalando. I think Vinted, like the consumer to consumer model is something so different from what we do. Then when I said, okay, it might not be the right idea to actually scale it. And as well, like our brands and the brands we work, they didn't really like it. That we as a platform, we as well, have then sometimes as well their items in secondhand on our platform, and they don't have any control over it. So we stopped that.
These are the biggest fails.
Well, the biggest. I mean, from the biggest failures I think they're small failures. If you would ask me what is the biggest miss, I think, of Zalando, I would say is that we have not. I mean, that we have not diversified strongly enough into more growing S curves. Yeah. So what I mean with S curves is, if you consider like companies such as like the real big ones like Google or an Amazon or like an Alibaba from China, I think what they have done is they have started in nucleus and actually were able to actually get into new S curves very quickly. That even like when Amazon in books doesn't grow anymore at all. Yeah? So if they would have stayed a books retail company, I think it would be like a fairly small company. Yeah. Or like, Google actually has maps and YouTube, blah, blah, so it has a lot of like, newcomers. And I feel, I think that would be probably, I think, a big miss that we have not early enough actually implemented enough kind of S curves that.
And that's too late? You could have the Zalando, like Leroy Merlin of home, how do you call that? Bricolage, you know what I'm saying?
Bricolage.
That's when with the screws and when you do homework. Housework. Yeah.
I mean, I think like, and we're doing that, but I think like looking back, like when it was like a private company, and I think probably like having had more S curves, I think we were very early on, would have as well, helped more, I think, down the stream. Because, at the end, like we're still like, European e-commerce, fashion lifestyle. And in the last couple of years, this is an area which has not really grown like structure as a market as much. Yeah? So, but yeah, in B2B is now a new area that we actually, that's growing stronger. And in our portfolio of all the categories that we do, there's as well some stronger growing portfolios.
It's not like you've been slow. 16 years for 20 billion GMV is.
Yeah, I think on one hand, we're not small, we're not a small company, but if you compare, like speaking about European ambition, and if you compare ourselves to a company in the US, we're tiny. Yeah? And I think that's something where I say like maybe we should have done that a bit more aggressive and earlier and more in the beginning.
How do they do that actually? When I'm just looking at you and I hear what you just say, once again, it's from 0 to 20 million GMV. That's huge. I can't imagine. It's like 20. Yeah. You said 30 countries.
29 countries.
Yeah, 29 countries. Yeah. That's more than one. That's almost 2 countries a year. So it's 17,000 people, and that's the number of people you hire now. But going into the company, it's probably above 30,000 at some point. So this is huge numbers. How do they do that? Where are they better than we are?
It's a good question. It's I think there's a lot of good recipes of execution. I think that they actually have. I think it's deeper capital markets. It's deeper money markets. I think in the end as well, in the US. But I think it all eventually should be solvable in Europe. But you asked me about regrets. I think that's probably having done more early kind of S curves in the beginning. I think we should have been more ambitious and more daring and we still are. But I think in the early days, I think we would have benefited more now because we have now a couple of years where we grew a lot like in the first 13 years, and I think since a couple of years we're growing a little bit less. Now we're growing the 5 to 10% like-for-like basis. And I would actually love to get back more to like the 20 and 30% growth, which is way more fun, and I think way more, it just compounds into much bigger company.
What were the hardest moments? I've seen that you've been from a market cap of 30 billion at some point going down in 2022 to 6+ billion, which is still big, but it must be harsh to live through that. Was that the hardest thing you've been through, or?
Well, there are many many hard moments, but like we talked about, I think at the time, like, from going from 6 to 160 million in 1 year and then to 510 million in 1 year. I think, there is, literally not a day where you wake up and there is not yet another kind of very big fire anywhere in the company that you have not. I think there is a lot of these, existential moments, I think, in these 2 years where it was always, hard. I think probably.
What you say is really true. I want to pinpoint what you're just saying is I've heard someone talking about, I think it was probably Mark Andreessen talking about Mark Zuckerberg, but saying like every single day there is a big fire, and like the big fires can be like much bigger than what I've lived through my whole entrepreneur life, right? Somehow.
Well, there were days where, in the very early days where we didn't have enough cash to pay the employee salaries, and you have to incentivize prepayment of customers in order to actually have enough cash to those kind of moments we had. We had moments where there were logistical problems, and like our warehouse was full, and there were like all these arrivals of incoming merchandise, and just the warehouse couldn't really take them in because in the warehouse we have not. It was like you go from summer to winter, and like in winter you have like boots, and shoes. Summer you have smaller ones, and it was an item-based planning. And it was not a planning that actually the boots actually twice the size as the ballerinas. So it didn't fit anymore. So, and then we had to just find a new warehouse, but we had to pay the merchandise. If the merchandise doesn't sell, you actually get into cash issue. So, we had a couple of moments where we like once where we had like brand claims that we could have lost our name of Zalando, although we were already advertising heavily on this brand name. There were so many of these moments, like every single day, and you wake up and just say, okay, how the heck shall we solve this? So, and I think there was, for 2 or 3 years, there was not every day, but I think every week there was something just new coming up that you just have to solve.
Do you have kind of a recipe to go through that?
I think what I realized, I think when I talk to like a lot of like different entrepreneurs, I think there's always something, I think, that we actually like when you actually go through some and I think everyone really walks through these phases, and I think there's something in the personality, I think, which is kind of similar that I feel like very familiar in my personality and as well in the people I talk to, which is this optimism, so that actually things really will work out.
The best is yet to come.
Yeah, and I think and although like it might realistically, like objectively, only be 1%, I think in our mind this 1% is actually so big, that it really consumes us. It consumes like our thinking, our energy, and then you really focus on this 1%, and it actually gets so big and this, I think, creates a lot of kind of energy and as well hope, and as well for and then somehow you actually make this 1% much bigger than 1%. And I think that's I remember like in this 2010 period when you actually e-commerce company from a 6 million to 160 million company in 1 year, and you have to imagine that you actually buy merchandise for that, you pay for merchandise 6 months in advance. So you actually bet on a 10 times growth in the next 6 months. So with money. And
just as you see the stock and everything.
Yeah, you receive the stock, and you just build the operation. You do that, and there were questions in the teams around like, how will this work? And I remember in my mind, of course it will work. You will see like the merchandise comes in, the conversion rate go up. So with the conversion going up, we will actually be able to make more, to book more keywords, and with more keywords. So in my mind, like, although it was, in retrospect, pretty much insane, that I really had no doubt that it would work. But yeah, it worked. So, and I think that's actually, that's probably, a lot of entrepreneurs have in common, that this 1%, it really gets so big in their mind, just and therefore actually make it happen.
the interesting thing is that you were at some point 3 co-CEOs.
Yeah.
Which is wow, really weird from the outside, and now you're the only CEO.
No, we took.
You're still 2, but is it still your co-founder?
It changed. No, it's
no, it's changed. That's what I've seen. Yeah, okay. And I mean, what the fuck? Sorry, but what the fuck? No, but I understand because most of the time you have to get one like the source. Like I don't know how we call it, but and then you had 3, now 2, and I mean, and there were never one. Were you?
No, never. I mean, no. I think there was no time where we were only one. Well, I think if you can make it work with 2 or 3, I think it's actually a very beautiful model. Yeah. So, but it doesn't come for granted. Yeah. So that you can make it work.
I've seen. Sorry. Just to repurpose what I just said, but I've seen so many like very strong CEO looking me in the face and say, like, a company cannot work with 2 CEOs or 3 CEOs, like it's, for them, it's just grande, right? And you're just proving with probably the largest European e-commerce company that you've done it. And I just want to understand. So
so we are the largest. Yeah? So that's true. Like outside of Amazon, we're the largest. Yeah? And I mean, how we've proven, I think, so first of all, I think when you really start, so when you start the company in the very first, you don't really think about org charts. Yeah, you don't think about who actually takes. Like it's all about ownership. It's all about it's so clear what you actually do, and you just and I personally really refrained as well from org charts for a long time because I didn't want to put people into boxes. Yeah, I didn't want to circle their ownership around anything. Yeah, so just say you're an owner of the company. You just do whatever is the best thing, and if that means like cleaning a table, and you clean a table, and it's like taking a decision, so whatever it is. And I think then over time, like like me and my co-founder, we just worked in a certain way, but we always felt there was actually something missing, which is a little bit more structured person who just is a bit more rational as well, helps us to figure out some decisions. So we actually took one of our friends from university into the company, Ruben, and then we really clicked like from the very first day, and we just got more stuff done. So and I think the question around who is actually CEO and who not like never really came up at all. And then I think for the IPO, then we actually had to decide, okay, how do we call it? I mean, then we said, okay, well, let's do just 3 co-CEOs. And it's, and I mean, yes, at the time, bankers asked us, or like investors asked, how does it work? But I mean, it always worked very well, because we were always 100% aligned. And with 3 co-CEOs, you actually have the benefit that if you are, if you're not aligned, also if there's some decision coming up where you might have a different perspective on stuff, then you still have a majority vote, which you might not use a lot.
Did it happen?
Sometimes it happens, but not on bigger stuff. But we really spend a lot of time together, and we are very, very good friends and very, very trusted. And then I think you really make it work in a very good way because you just exercise with the same level of energy, like the CEO role on the company, and the one can talk to investors, the other one can actually talk to brands, and the other one can actually work internally, and we all have the same kind of ownership and accountability.
So you had at the end your own ownerships. I mean, was one in charge of finance and kind of the CFO, CEO, and the other one was the COO, CEO, or sales CEO. Okay.
And I mean, since then we always worked in 2 co-CEO setups. So like Ruben left, and with David, my co-founder, and now with another David, who is actually in the company since 16 years now.
Okay.
And as well I know for 20 years, and as well a very, very good friend. And I think with 2 co-CEOs, I think it is it's a little bit like parenting, yeah. So it's you always have to make sure that the kids don't really go to one and actually get a different answer from somewhere else. But I think parents actually a working family actually has has some benefits if both the father and the mother are involved. And I think as something is really compared to parenting.
Would you be able to be solo CEO at some point?
I mean, it's. I think being able is not is obviously, yeah. I think.
Or would you want?
Yeah. I think I always really enjoyed. I think in a co-CEO setup because it's actually a good way to share the burden, and if you really trust each other, and you have to as well, make sure that I think it's not about ego. Yeah, so you have to make sure that you really trust your partner, your co-CEO partner, and you share the burden, but you share as well the success together.
If I, as an investor, I would be worried that if things turn the wrong way, probably, I mean, maybe it never did, but if there is a big problem, then probably it would dislocate somehow, or you would not agree, or maybe one would say, well, that's not my fault. I don't know, what.
But I mean, it's. I think that's a personality question, but I think it never would happen. I think we always, in our conversation, always had so much ownership, and I mean, if or like felt ownership on the company, and I think in times under pressure, I think we actually got more closer together than actually apart. Like it was always this case. So, but it might. I mean, and not saying it actually should. Like I would recommend this model to everyone.
Yeah.
So because it really, I think, depends on what kind of personality you are. Like, do you actually trust your partner? I think an assembled co-CEO setup, I think I would probably never recommend it because you really have to know the other person. You really have to trust the other person very much. And I think if that's the case, I would rather actually go for one.
And when it goes bad, or when it happens, I've identified maybe two moments. So I talked about the valuation crashing down, or you had kind of I don't know if it was rather big or small scandal about back in 2019 about was it an employee rating or something like this issue you had? How does it work when you're two? Is it how do you?
With my with David as co-CEO, like how it works now. So
well, how it works when it goes bad. When is it better? Do you get better when you're two, or?
I get better when I think CEOs tell you is it's very alone at the top, yeah. So and I think if you actually have a co-CEO that you really trust, I think it's actually not alone at the top because you can really discuss how do we manage the situation. Who of us should actually rather go in the lead on a certain matter, yeah. So on how to instruct it. So you actually have to spend a bit of time with each other, yeah. So I mean, like with my co-CEO, with David, David Schröder, the co-CEO that I run Zalando with. I spent at least once a week, actually 1 hour walking, together. We have quite some meetings actually with each other, and we always make sure that for the teams it's actually very clear and apparent that we are very aligned. Huh?
Okay.
So
always,
huh? And I mean, if there's actually some cases, and because we have different personalities, so and for good reasons, we have different personalities, and we have sometimes different appetites for risk, or we have different appetites for, or like a different kind of ability to structure things. He's much better in structuring and.
So you're the risk taker, probably.
Yeah, but I would rather be like a little bit more the risk taker, like the risk taker, and a bit more the person that actually rather I think loves this horizon more of 1 to 2 years or like beyond, yeah. And I think he is rather a little bit more the person actually who has a lot of details on like the next 12 months. So, but I think together, I think we make decisions actually much better, like as we kind of really trust our judgments.
Did you ever close a country? Did you ever close a country? Did you have to close?
Have you closed a country?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I mean,
Okay.
with some countries that never really kicked off, like UK. I mean, but we still have a business in UK, but we never closed anyway. Because I mean, the marginal cost of running a country for us is actually pretty low. Yeah? Because
So UK didn't. I mean,
it's the only European market where we never really achieved scale, but we never really invested a lot into it because it's a very different.
Yeah, it's
market.
just 50 million. It's something like this, right? Probably
no. I mean, it's a big market, but it's. I think the British fashion market is a very different market. It's like it's very high, very young fashion, very different consumer.
And fashion, you say?
Yeah, it's as well different.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean the brick, So it's, but I think we as well see it from the brands that we work with. That many of them actually are not really good in UK.
If we stay on the country expansions, I mean, with all of those countries, do you have a kind of a recipe? Like, how much do you invest? I mean, what is like? Here is the roadmap. Sorry, that was what I mean for a new country. Do you have like something I can learn from you?
from our business, I mean, when you launch a country, it's I think the first stitchings is always get the convenience actually right. Yeah. So like, are we able to deliver very well into this country? Like, are we able to actually have like a very good convenience proposition? To kind of like in terms of like how easy is this and how fast do you get it? How do you get it? How do you get the merchandise? How easy it is to return to the country? So I think that's the basics. Yeah. So it's getting the convenience level right, and then the selection is as well very important. So obviously, because I mean, different brands actually have very different affinity in different countries. So getting the selections right, and then like the more operational stuff, translations, blah blah. And then the marketing piece is then the last piece that we actually have then to get right, which is like just setting up the programmatic media buying and so on. But then as well, like launching like very targeted and specific actually campaigns to actually get the brand recognition very quickly up. Yeah? And but I mean, we've now done 29 times. So
do you recruit a local person every?
Yeah, we recruit local people, but usually we recruit local people here in Berlin actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because we made our learnings over the years, but we found out that having the teams actually more working with each other in one location is actually of higher benefit than actually having too much local teams actually spread across Europe. What those still is important that actually the country teams actually spend as well quite some time in the markets, yeah, so that they really get as well the local sense of the consumers, and so there's quite some traveling actually into these markets.
Interesting. If we talk about competition, we're seeing. So the other day we were around. We talked a bit about Amazon, and I was telling you we were in Wrocław. I said quite bad with the team here. So for our next movie, and we've seen Shein, the Chinese brand, like their warehouse. Wow, that was just insane. I mean, we've seen one was just like 400. How do you say? Where you plug the trucks, like 400
gates.
Gates, yeah. And it was just probably the smallest one of all of their buildings. And it's not operational. It will be in a couple of months, I believe. But it was, I mean, you've seen a lot of them, but it was 700,000 square meters. So I believe that's, I mean, like, I would say winter is coming, right? I don't know. It seems it's going to be huge. And right there was also a big Amazon fulfillment center. Yeah. And you see there is the airport, and it's just logistics. And it's quite scary, I have to say. And what do you think about all these? I mean, is winter coming?
I mean, I think I would probably guess that I think the non-operational warehouse, I think that you see, it actually comes due to as well the tariffs that is now ramping in July, because I mean a lot of these companies like Shein or Temu, they when they actually imported into European Union, it was actually customs free. So because there was this de minimis rule where like all these kind of imports that are below 150 euro, it was actually de minimis. So there was actually no customs. So every single other brand that you actually have otherwise in Europe, actually they paid customs when they import into European Union, and they didn't. So this gave them a lot of cost advantage, and then was additional cost advantage actually coming from China. So I think now as there's like a customs regime in place, starts to be in place in July, which makes it a little bit more, the level playing field with all the other brands. They probably have to bike import as well a lot more into the European Union and actually pay customs, which is I think very good for the European Union in general. I think that's probably the case where they build it. So it's not all these single shipment items anymore directly from China, but rather actually more done as well within the European Union.
Yeah, centralized somehow.
Yeah.
Does it scares you?
Scare like
that they come. They will probably at some point come with still a lot of shoes. We've seen in China when we were there last year. A lot of fashion going big also over there.
Yeah.
New brands. They still sell a lot of European American brands, but it's growing, and most of those brands are assembled in Asia or in. So.
Well, I think the biggest or the big model from there is like trying to be like very, very cheap. Yeah. So and at the bare kind of minimum of legal or beyond. And it's not really. We work with 7,000 brands. So and they're on a platform. So and I think the overlap is actually not that much in terms of like price points on Zalando. So it's really is a very different it's a very different segment. And the good thing about the fashion lifestyle market, it's a very broad market, and obviously some people really like the very, very cheap fashion. Yeah. So it's not really what the broad appeal of the market is. And as I said, it's a 500 billion market, and Shein, I think in Europe is smaller than Zalando is.
You say you work with
7,000 brands.
Are the big brands the same in each country? Is the biggest brand in France and Germany, is it the same?
It's not. There's difference in terms of rankings, yeah. But obviously Nike is a big brand across Europe.
Is it number one?
I don't want to comment like on which was number one, but like Nike, Adidas obviously are like very big brands. And for example, like from France, like you have Lacoste, for example, which is Lacoste, like very big brands in France, but less so like in some other parts of the. But I think that's as well our proposition to brands that we really try to bring these brands actually across Europe and actually make them accessible as well across Europe and help them as well to grow towards European consumers, which we have done very, very nicely now with Next. Yeah? So from the UK, and since they are now on our B2B services here at Zalando, they have seen actually tremendous growth in continental Europe of more than 60%. And they publicly report these numbers, so therefore I can cite them. So and at better cost. So I think what's actually like I like a lot about what we do is that we actually help brands to be better versions of themselves throughout Europe.
And so you have to. The fun thing is that you see the brands coming up, down, the new ones. Yeah. What has amazed you the most in the past? Years. What have you seen coming? I don't know. Did you see? Maybe you're not into that really now, but.
Well, I'm always very amazed by these cycles of these brands. Yeah. So you see like the Nike cycle, you see the Adidas cycle, you see the. In
France, we've seen Salomon, for example, growing big, like so big. I don't know if it's just France, actually. But,
so I think that it's or Under Armour, Lululemon, those, and you see these cycles actually like of brands. And I think what always amazes me is how a brand, when they really have a good go on the consumer and really like have a good setup of product, of brand and execution, like how amazing cycles they actually can create, and then as we get a little bit more into the slump again, and then up again in the cycle. So it's really it's an interesting. For us, it's actually good that we actually work across 7,000 brands. So we always when the one brand is a little bit weaker, we actually see then another brand actually picking up.
Sneakers are dominating everything, isn't it? I mean, is it just the biggest segment?
Sneakers are an important segment, but what we as well see is that, just recently, I think that sneakers as well are not always so much in demand. So now we actually see a little bit more of a trend towards a bit more formal shoe wear across Europe.
I've
actually,
seen that. Yeah. Interesting. So you can see it in some in big cities, like youngsters are fed up with the sneakers somehow, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think So I think you see it to some extent, and I mean, on Zalando you have a section which is called Trend Spotter. It's called where you can actually browse what are different kind of different movers and shakers actually by city that are actually more searched about, and it actually looks very differently across like different cities. But I mean, the overall trend of sneakers is a little bit more weaker at the moment, but the formal shows a bit more. I think that's what we see then across Europe.
Okay. Just checking what are you wearing?
Yeah.
But do you have prices on shoes?
They're
good prices.
I think that's I'm not sure. Like
there's no brand. Interesting. After all of those years, I mean, we've talked about some of your French competitors in the shoes area, but we've talked about other competitors. What would you say that makes the success of Zalando? I mean, is it just, it seems it's not price, at least in Germany. Is it logistics? Is it, I mean, you said it's not even the client service. I mean, what is the recipe?
I mean, I think it's all of them. I think in combination. I used to look at the broad proposition that Zalando brought to consumers was the democratization of fashion. Yeah? So that no matter where you live, like if it's in Paris, close to Champs-Élysées, or if you live actually in the north of Finland, that you have the same kind of convenience and access all of a sudden to fashion and lifestyle. Yeah? Which you didn't have 15 years ago. But you literally can order everything, and it doesn't anymore restrict you to actually go into the major cities and explore on the street. And I think this in combination, this amazing selection, in combination with the convenience, the trust towards that it actually works towards the brands, as well the trust from the brands that actually are confident to actually have their selection completely on our destination, which is as well not for granted. And then I think a very continuous execution on what drives actually customer satisfaction.
So it's an obsession after another. I mean, it means you have to be.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah? I think you always have to obsess around customer about customer expectations and how you actually meet them. And then really and match it as well with what actually brands need from you, because there's always a lot of innovation actually, like how do you better present the products, how do you better present the brands, and when it comes to convenience, I think customers never really complain that the merchandise arrived too much on time or too fast. Yeah, so I think you can always push your boundaries and always be better. Or size and fit, brands, customers will not, and brands and customers, they would never really complain if our size advice is actually too accurate. Yeah? Because if you actually know it fits, you don't have to return it, and the brand actually saves us more money, or we save money. So I think there's a lot of frontiers where you can just push and push and push and just be better every day. And then it's a question: do you prioritize to be better now in France, or in Poland, or in Germany? And I think there's always a lot to do in order to push.
Did you solve that size problem? I mean,
no,
somehow it seems insane. I mean, I'm fucking 41, and in some other brands I'm 42, and some other you're 40, and you're like, I mean, what happens? I mean, you're like, it's weird.
I mean, we've seen some good progress now with it. So size-related returns is the biggest part of returns, but it's not the only part of returns. So I think there's two parts of returns I think that we can actually solve eventually with technology. The one is size-related returns, and the other one is the presentation-related returns, which is I imagined this item to be different.
Doesn't fit me. Yeah, I don't like those style.
I imagine it. So, and I think here actually with AI now we see actually quite some good improvements. So with size-related returns, only last year we've seen actually that through our own engines, and they were able to reduce the size-related returns by 8%.
Which is big.
Which is big and helpful, and I mean, it helps the consumers, it helps the margins, helps the environment. So I think there's actually a lot to come more on the size-related returns, and on presentation-related. I mean, we are now able to just produce so much accurate content on the detailed pages with more pictures, or create 3-dimensional videos out of 2-dimensional pictures. So it actually gets very, very accurate. And I mean, you can very soon as well, dress all items on your own body when you actually render the sizes. So I think there's actually a lot of these things that are coming, and will actually help a lot on these 2 areas of returns.
Because I mean, it seems you seem quite logical person, and it seems quite weird that you're people say, well, Nike, I'm 42, and because Nike size is like this, and they say, oh, this one, if it's it's smaller, and you're I'm a 40 and a half, and you're I mean, how comes it's not solved? I mean,
well, it's not solved because I mean, first of all, I think the human body is changing. Yeah, people get bigger.
My size of my
not so much in feet, but I think the other part of the body that's changing as well.
I got fitter with the age.
In January, you're bigger than in July, so I think that's one problem. So that the human body is actually not constant, and the other problem is that the supply chain is actually quite complex. Yeah? So the different factories, even a brand, the same items that are produced in different factories, they actually are slightly then different sometimes. Yeah? So a size 38 in this one factory might not be exactly the same as a size 38 in the other factory, because they just have slightly different production mechanics. Huh?
So do you try? Do you have a way to try all of the shoes coming in to try to compare if they're 41 on this? I mean,
we did a lot of these tests, but it's I mean, and you cannot try every single item, because if you do it with every single item, it's too much cost. Yeah. So if you try it on a configured product, on an item category, or an item.
You'll see on data probably.
So you have not enough data. So I mean, we tried a lot, but I think what really actually in the end helps is the big data way. So I mean, so if the two of us would have similar kind of bodies, and I'm Zalando customer since 18 years, so ordered 500 different items over the last 15 years, more, and I've returned some, and actually give feedback why I returned some across 20 different brands. And actually you come in, and actually algorithm learns that you have a similar body type than I have. So you can actually benefit from my returns and from the data of my order data with personalized size advice that you then get. Yeah? So this is what you see on Zalando. So when you have a size advice on Zalando, it actually benefits from more than 60 million customers that actually order at Zalando over the year, and actually return stuff and keep stuff, and actually give advice. Huh? So
interesting. Do you sell Veja on Zalando? Veja,
I think so. So I hope
the French brand.
Maybe check. Yeah, but
we'll check.
But I think that
we'll check, because they brought us last year, actually exactly 1 year ago, in Brazil, in Amazonian forest, to show us how they get their Clemens told me you're selling it,
good,
and we've seen how they get all of their leather, cotton, and rubber, and everything. And it was, I mean, amazing how they do that, and how green and ecological it is. Is that their own fight? Do people care about this, or it's just very niche?
We talked about Shein, So it's, I mean, do people care about it? I think they. So what we see, and what we learned is that people claim they care about it, but it's if it really comes to price, there's we call it an attitude behavior gap. Yeah. So the attitude, yes, I care, and the behavior is you don't care. Yeah? So what we see is, and we invest a lot in terms of like just creating transparency across these 7,000 brands, like how much they invest in certain areas, and just help consumers to actually make more choices based on sustainability criteria. So. And what we see is, yes, it actually helps. It helps for consumer to make this choice, but actually, if the price difference is too big, people always go then for if a similar item is actually the one is more sustainably made and obviously has higher costs, because it costs more. Then the other item, which looks very similar, consumers just prefer the lower price item, and that's a little bit of a sad reality.
Interesting. How in most of I've also hosted many podcasts with big retail brands, like French. It's not Carrefour, but Super U or stuff like this. And one of the big thing on their business is to buy well and kind of cheap.
Yeah.
So there is how do you buy? I mean, how does that work? You go every year with Nike and say, I'm going to sell you next year like 30 million pairs of shoes, and so you have to give me a better price. Is that how it works? So a big rough talk, or?
Well, I mean, there's a big part of our business which is we call it partner program driven. So which is where the brands actually own the inventory, and so
they own the inventory.
That's a big part of our business, where the brands own the inventory, and then as well use our logistics service to actually distribute inventory. But it's actually owned by the brand, so it's their inventory. And we take actually like just service commissions for our services, for the platform, for logistics, and for marketing service and so on. That's part. And then there's a part, the 1P part, where we actually buy inventory and then we own the inventory. And it actually is not so far away from what you just shared. So there is an item by item kind of orders that you actually do. And I mean, where we look into historical data, but as well into trends, and actually buyers of Zalando actually take then decisions for specific items, and then we order them and they get produced and get into our systems once they're ready to sell.
Is one of your obsession to be able to predict how many pair of shoes? I show you this shoe and say you're going to tell me, I'm able to sell.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest. If you're able to accurately predict the future of how many items it would sell at which price, I think that's ultimately the biggest. That's even the better or like more important holy grail than solving the return rates. Because that's the ultimate reason of why fashion lifestyle is actually still like very inefficient, because like constantly stuff get overproduced, underproduced.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Are you good at it?
I mean, it's one of the scale advantages of Zalando that we operate across 29 countries in a centralized system, so that we're better able to predict, but as well better able to navigate inventory situations, because you see like different sensitivities of prices, where the consumers react differently to like French consumers are very price driven, like some other consumers are less price driven. So there's we have a lot of different tools to actually solve clear inventory throughout the season.
And so if I see if I want to buy a pair of let's say Veja Condor or Nike Air Max or whatever, if I see it in France, is it the same that you will see in Germany and everywhere else?
No, I think it can be like it's the same product, but it can be actually differently priced, different convenience aspects.
The different price, but if you have it in stock somewhere, is it available everywhere or?
Mostly it's available everywhere. Yeah, okay. So mostly it's available everywhere, but it can be that sometimes if the warehouse, it's a big logistic problem to compose like an order into say 4 different items across a network of warehouses into one single order, because that's ultimately what you want to have.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. It's on one hand a nightmare, but it's important to do that, because then you have like one delivery and one return, and that saves the consumer like different shipments, but as well saves money because it's just one shipment.
Yeah, but plus if you know that the 42 you have it, but there is just 50 left.
Yeah,
and that you will sell it on a higher price in Germany, then probably there is no interest for you to show to me in France that there is. I mean, you just tell me that sorry, mate, sorry, Matt, not available anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like pricing engines, but you get like the complexities of like optimizations that we actually are. But it's but I think one of the more challenging problems is the composition actually of an order. Like how do you actually make sure that you actually get a custom order into one shipment, and actually do it in a way that it doesn't need like a couple of days to actually consolidate these items, because that these items are available within one warehouse is not always like very likely.
What's interesting is that those problems, I mean, you're like maybe the only European who has them. You know, you have to solve them by yourself somehow. It's interesting, but
I think Amazon has some of these issues as well. Yeah. But I think operating Europe actually as a network of logistics centers and scale it in such a long tail market as fashion lifestyle, where you have these millions of items, and many and big part of them actually only exist for 6 months, and then actually there are new items actually coming in the market, is a very particular problem to solve. Yeah.
Do you shoot yourself all of the pictures and everything? Yeah.
Well, we have studios that shoots it themselves. Yeah. And but there's a lot of disruption as well in this area due to AI, as you can imagine.
Speaking of AI, how far are you into AI? What are your usage on your site? Did you use like OpenClaw yet, or did you use Hermes or stuff agentic AI already?
I mean, we have a team of 3,000 tech, like not only software engineers, but I think like it's the biggest job fair at Zalando. And I mean, obviously, like we use we use Cloud Code, and there's a lot of kind of like daily progress now on things that we actually are now testing out and thinking about like how we can more increase our productivity.
What did you change already? Like big time?
I mean, I think in coding, I think there's just a pull request. I mean, they go massively up. What we see there is just I think the work actually of a software engineer just fundamentally is about to change at the moment. Yeah? So I think that's a big area. We talked about content on site. So in the
translation must be so easy, no?
Yeah, customer care as well. A lot of topics. So, but I think content on site, like now, 90% of the content that we have on site are actually prompted. Yeah.
Right.
So it used to be like all shot and all retouched and like planned as campaigns, and now it's actually 90% is just prompted through AI. And this reduces, I think, the amount of content, but as well the time to market of content massively. So that's content. I mean, size rate returns that we talked a little bit about. I mean, we have delivery prediction. This like being able to predict when a consumer actually enters an order, like when it will arrive. So when this assembly of this order in this warehouse network actually is done, and the order is actually sent out, and when it will arrive to you as a consumer. So we got better by 22 percentage points last year through like the new kind of models and algorithms. What else? I mean, we invest now a lot in agentic commerce which is the question, like how can you actually combine like our data and experience and focus of fashion lifestyle with more agentic experience for consumers. Yeah? So, for example, when you are like, let's say you're a runner, yeah, and you have an overpronation problem, yeah, and you look for a specific shoe for overpronation, yeah? So and like in e-commerce, the way of how it's used to work is very much like search and then filter it down, yeah. So, but I think for many of these use cases, the filtering or search doesn't really work because it's not really available as a filter, as an option. So it's very hard sometimes to find these problems. So, and I think with agentic commerce, what you now can do is actually consumes like talk to consumer in a very natural way to understand, and then service these items in the right way. And I think that's what we are. What we're working on, where we have now quite some success, and we have we've now like just last quarter, 10 million people actually interacted with our agentic commerce experiences.
So that's on your website. That's your own. Okay.
That's the own one.
There is probably also the agentic commerce that is made on Claude or ChatGPT. That we see the more we go on this journey. For example, in the last 2 weeks, from Tallinn to Kiev to Berlin. I mean, most of the hotels, restaurants, and stuff like this, we're asking Claude and ChatGPT and tell us where we should. And I guess that's a great opportunity, but it could be a threat somehow, I guess, because at some point they will just tell you, hey, Robert, we like you a lot, but we cannot do it for free, right? So if we recommend people and we recommend Nike on Zalando, then it's going to cost you that much.
So I think that's the second part, I think, of agentic commerce. Like, how do you actually orchestrate journeys that actually might start in different agentic or chatbot like OpenAI, like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or so on. And how do we what kind of role do we actually play in these ecosystems? And I mean, for me, I think as always, I think this is I always would approach it as a great opportunity for us, because it's first of all, I think 30% of the fashion retail sales are only online and 70% are still offline. So I think the major market is still the offline market. Yeah. So that actually is turning online. And I think we as a company are always in a good position because we're the biggest e-commerce company in Europe. We're very tech forward. Google are now Google is now building this commerce protocol, how we actually might as an ecosystem interact with each other. So and we're only one of 2 partners that actually work with to build this. So and I think in the end, I think it will as well probably bring as well more volume into e-commerce, and we will be very, very good at it. And but I still think the best way to actually shop fashion lifestyle will be when you actually be able to combine it with the own data. The own data. So I imagine ideally in a couple of years you should be able to ask Zalando to surprise me with something. Surprise me. So bring me a surprise gift for 100 euros that I like. Yeah. And in order to solve such a question, so you actually need to you need to tap into the data of what you have ordered, where you have ordered, where do you live, what are your size profiles, what are the brands, what you actually might like. And I think this is actually so personal that I think here, when you actually are able to solve such a question, I see a bigger chance for us with our data to be able to solve such a question than a chatbot that has a contextual understanding of the world that we as well have in our chatbot, because we work with them and we integrate them, but we're actually able to personalize this to the very own environment that we're operating in.
So the question of data. So what I'm saying is that the way I was thinking when I asked the question was that, I use Claude as my assistant on so many things. He reads my emails, get my agenda, and probably at some point maybe will know many things about me. So I thought I was seeing it as probably my assistant capable to tell me, hey, you haven't seen this new pair of Salomon going out. You should check out. So I don't know how it will work between you guys, but maybe at some point you could just become, and that was my scare, kind of a commodity, and just the stock and and you have to be able to keep that brand thing that makes that I want to order on Zalando because I know that it will come faster and I can send it back, and so the whole magical of what you've done for the past 16 years.
Yeah, I think we need to be able to create these kind of experiences in a way that it's better for fashion lifestyle than it can be done on Claude in the end. And I think the way to do it is actually when you tap into the very specific data that you have as an e-commerce company and actually in the fashion lifestyle actually have, and how do you mine this data in the right way and actually create a solution for customers that actually is better than what is only be doable on these items. But I think as I said, 70% is still in bricks and mortar in Europe, and I rather actually see this as an opportunity for more digital revenues.
Did you change your work as a CEO?
The AI?
Yeah, the AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we now seeing is like in terms of the just analytical questions on like what actually happens in this country, what like yesterday. I think typically, when I had such a question, like, either you actually ask someone to prepare like an analysis and it's like 2 or 3 days, or you just actually go ahead and just get into like, database and just look for the numbers. Huh? And I think those kind of things now actually so easily at high quality solved. Yeah. So at Zalando, I think that's very different. I think another second big difference is how I just prompt like much of the information I need that I actually want to have, instead of just asking people. I think what I haven't yet really done, which I always since a couple of always put on my agenda, is just going very deep and just program my own agent and do because I see this around me, like what everyone does, and I see it and I get it, but I haven't really done it by myself, and I really want to get into it, but it's very, very hard for me to just prioritize the time and the right way to actually really do it. I did it a bit over Eastern, but yeah, it's in holidays, but I thought I can always spend even my holidays on doing all this stuff. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a dream coming true. I mean, doing this, I've been running around the digital era. I mean, the business for 20 years, and you just prompt like my AI assistant is called Vadim. It's running on OpenClaw. It has its own Mac Mini at home. Yeah. And so I said, Vadim, can you create a page saying this and that on my WordPress? And then boom, it's done. And it's like it's SEO crazy optimized. So I've taught him it to be better on the design, front end, or also UX. So it's very interesting. You love it probably.
Yeah. No, I think it's very exciting. I think what's happening now. Yeah.
You were saying 70% of the fashion is lifestyle is offline. Have you ever thought about, or did you ever open any Zalando shops?
Well, we have a couple of outlets that we operate here in Germany, but outside of the outlets, we never really went into like big physical stores. And I feel it's such a, again, the question of focus. It's such a different experience. And I think bricks and mortar is not like really growing. Yeah? So it's e-commerce is growing. Yeah? So and bricks and mortar is not really growing, and the entire lifestyle market is pretty flattish in Europe. So it's not a shift from offline to online.
Yeah, but so you get the data. You know what's. You would put like a big shop, probably not on the Champs-Élysées, I don't know, but like some places like this, that's what's gonna sell this weekend somehow. So it's an unfair advantage you have.
Yeah, I still think there's other problems that we really find more interesting to solve than bricks and mortars. And I think there's other companies that just have a lot of heritage in this. And I really didn't see it anywhere in the world really working well. So I think, Alibaba did a lot of tests in bricks and mortar. I think Amazon did as well a few tests. I think it hasn't really worked. I think, at least that I know, like at scale, very well for a tech company to be as well good in bricks and mortar. What are
the brands that inspire you, or entrepreneurs that inspire you the most at the moment? Where do you get your inspirations?
My inspirations?
Yeah, from other brands, books, people.
I get a lot of inspiration from I think people that I work with here at Zalando. I think there's a good source of inspiration, and I try to as well expose myself a lot to entrepreneurs in Europe. Yeah? So just yesterday was at an event close, like in Oxford, where a lot of European entrepreneurs came together, and I think you just have conversations like how people think about Europe, about the world, about AI, and I think that creates a lot of kind of peripheral vision for me and like ideas.
If I ask you, who's the most impressive right now?
Most impressive entrepreneur.
Like who's the first who comes in mind?
I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, I think probably is Elon Musk. I mean,
or out of the people you've met, or in Europe.
In Europe. I don't want to call it names, but I mean, it's. I think there is a lot of great and ambitious entrepreneurs now in this AI age that I think doing like impressive companies, very fast, very, very quick. So I think that's quite impressive what's happening here.
Yeah. Have you met Anton? Osika? Yeah, that's where you okay. Yeah. These are quite amazing people. We met recently, and big fans of.
You met.
We recorded with him last year, and we're big fans of what they're doing and use. I mean, their texts all the time.
Use Lovable?
Yeah, Lovable. Like, I'd say all the time, and privately and professionally, and we've done like crazy stuff on Lovable, like really insanely crazy stuff. It's much more affordable or easy than Claude Code. We've tried too, but one of my partner, Christopher, I mean, he's made basically like an ERP, like and CRMs on Lovable that are like, I mean, I used to run, I told you, a digital agency. We would have priced it probably 150K. It would have taken us 8 months, a year maybe, for design, understanding the client's need, design, code, and everything, and well, it took him like less than 30 hours. You're like, I mean, this is just.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great AI coming, like Lovable. I think one coming out of Europe, like Lovable. There's in Germany we have Black Forest Labs. We have here in Berlin with N8N with Paloa, with Paloa. Which customer care, and Langdog is another one. I mean, here in Berlin. So I think that, or like Arthur with Mistral. So I think there's I think a lot of great and ambitious AI companies now here in Europe, and I think that's it's quite exciting. Or Recursive AI is a new one. Yeah, just got launched.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. If we get back to, so as I told you, we were around Europe for a European documentary for my YouTube channel, and I'm trying to get concrete and real ideas about how we could improve Europe. I wouldn't put you on the political level. I believe it's not the idea today, but what have you seen in the past years? You're one of the only new entrepreneurs being all over the place, including UK. Are you in Ukraine, actually? No. What doesn't work? What would you change if you had an opportunity?
Yeah, I think one thing that we already talked about is the appreciation of the single market. Yeah, so I think really committing to a single market of Europe, I think would tremendously help, because I think if we're not committing to a single market, then it's just a bunch of very small, fragmented individual markets, and I think that comes with regulation. It comes with capital. Yeah? So I think there's just a lot of things that would help very much if Europe really would come and drive a very strong agenda to really make this market a single market in the EU market. I think that's one important element, and then something that I think a lot about now is this question, actually, what actually AI is doing now. Huh? So, and I think what AI is doing is, I think to some extent, what it does is it takes some value creation from that actually done through like humans, actually towards value creation that actually done through capital. Huh? So, and with value creation through capital, what I mean is, you have actually models that actually write codes or do analysis and do all kinds of stuff that actually were previously done by humans. So, and these models actually they consume capital, like it's energy costs, it's inference and so on. So I think there's now a lot of, I think value creation actually happens through capital. No? So I think what Europe would really need to do is first of all, is attracting this capital now to Europe very much, because this is the new generation of companies that will create a lot of value. And if we don't attract them here to Europe and actually keep them here in Europe, this value creation will be outside of Europe. Yeah. And I think in order to do that, I think you would need to be very focused and prioritizing on how can you help new companies that they are and entrepreneurs that they start in Europe and stay in Europe, and make it as easy for them as possible, because they have a very easy choice to as well, start somewhere else, huh? And make it for those companies that are already existing today give them the opportunity to actually very quickly renovate themselves, because I think they actually have to deploy now a lot of AI in order to actually create this value that's coming up. So I think that's very much, I think what I would very much focus, I think, our European efforts on is how do you attract the capital and keep the capital in the companies efficient. Yeah.
So your IPO was made at Frankfurt Stock Exchange, right?
Yeah.
And I guess it's quite brave. Most of the people I've seen in our trip, when we asked them about an introduction, they would say an IPO. They would say, I would definitely go to Nasdaq. There's no point going anywhere else. There's no money, and it's for my shareholders. And there is, and you're like, okay, so you'd become an American company and say, yeah, sure. And this is the big problem you're talking about right now, is it? Would you sell actually to an American? You've probably had some offers, but from American companies.
We never had any concrete discussions with anyone about selling. No.
You never have had offers?
Well, we never had concrete or pursued any kind of
because the door is closed.
For us it was as well. We're a European company. We have, all our employees here in Europe. We have not all, but most of our employees in Europe. We serve European consumers as 15% of the European population is an active customer. So, for us then actually to list then outside of Europe would have been a very weird thing to do. Yeah. So,
but it's philosophical. It's kind of philosophical what you're saying. It's not finance somehow. Some people would have advised, or some people may have advised you to do it somewhere else because the money is there.
Because of the deeper capital. Maybe it's today a bit of a difference, but I think 2014 when we went public, for us, yes, obviously there were discussions is it actually an opportunity, but we very quickly discarded it because as a European headquarter company to list in the US and actually follow the US, schedules and regulation, everything would have been I think very weird and I feel it should as well be doable in Europe, I think our big task is rather to make Europe a better place and not actually go to the US or to China.
I get it. If I go back to the first point you explained, which was trying to make it easier to grow on several markets. During this trip, I've been asking myself that why didn't we do that? And there is probably sometime let's be honest, French people defend their wines and leather bags and whatever. I would say German people defend their luxury cars. And we don't have the same interest. And maybe it's good for, we consider, I don't think it is, but it's good for national markets to be to say hey, with your bank or your cell phone network, you should stay where you are, and we have ours, and we don't need you somehow. That's going to be tough to make. There is a cost at opening the markets.
There is a cost, but I think at one point in time, I think we as well all came together and said let's form the European Union because we believe it's actually better to do it together than actually alone, and we all committed actually to have a common currency. I think I would love if there's a new kind of wave of understanding that this is actually the the more important route for us in order to stay relevant. I think if we don't, I think like I see big danger of Europe being actually very less relevant in the future. I mean, and I think a lot of the value creation actually will happen. I think not anymore in Europe, but it will happen actually in the US and in China and probably I think for us it will feel I mean, when you're a tourist in the US, it will feel like, okay, well, we're really coming from a poor country, So if we don't really change that,
And
I
it's
think
happening.
it already happens a bit now, but I think it will happen even more so. And I would love that. I think Europe actually has more. That we have a common understanding, like how urgent it is actually to really, I mean, create like a positive vision for Europe and follow through with the single market idea and work more together.
Do you think things are moving? You must be meeting with some very important people with your job position. I mean, I don't know, ministers, presidents, and so on. Is something happening right now?
I think there is a broad understanding, but I hope it doesn't have to get much worse before it gets better.
That was what actually Rafal, the broadcast from InPost, told us the other day. He said we will definitely have to go through a crisis. There's no other option. Yeah. Well, you seem to agree somehow.
Well, I like I said, like I hope it doesn't need that. So because I think it's actually very urgent. Yeah.
Do you sleep well?
Yes. I mean, when I started out, I didn't really prioritize, I think, a lot my own sleep or health. But I think, like, as I'm one of 40 plus, so I learned that, I mean, for doing it a long time, you actually really have to prioritize your health and your sleep and like your energy. So I do now.
What are your stresses? I mean, what does stress you at night, or what is the things, I don't know, that makes you, keeps you awake?
That keeps me awake.
Yes, if you do sometimes.
I think one worry I always have is execution speed. And I think like execution speed, to keep up a very high execution speed at scale in Europe is very hard. And I think I'm constantly thinking about like how can I actually increase the company speed, more and better execution, because I think that I mean, especially now in this age of AI, we just see like so many things are happening. You just have to. I think the most important thing is be fast. Be fast to market, iterate very fast. Don't be afraid to take something wrong decision, but rather take a lot of decisions. And I think to scale it across an organization is something that actually I worry a lot about how to make that happen in Europe. And then you see the Chinese and American companies, they're just so much faster sometimes. So it's just so much more in their culture and their mechanisms and their speed and their environment. And I feel that's something which is hard to drive here in Europe.
How do you apply it to yourself? How do you get faster? I mean, it's like, do you take decision faster? I mean,
well, I mean, when I try to challenge myself, when I'm in discussions, that I'm an impatient person by nature, but I as well try to don't let myself too much into discussions where I feel it's actually not a very big decision, or the cost of being wrong is actually not so high, and just rather actually say what are we doing, and now move fast, and then really as well make sure you follow up very quickly. So whenever a team says okay, we need 3 months, so always push it faster. Yeah. I think these are mechanisms that I try, but I think it is so important to actually really be on the toes and be fast.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
and I think it hasn't been in our culture in the past 20, 40 years. I mean, 20 years, I would say. I understand that the American, you totally agree, and Chinese, we've seen now very...
I think there's a high appreciation of speed, and a high appreciation as well of making something that's wrong a wrong decision, because there's just the throughput of decisions actually is just so much higher, and I think the throughput of decisions here that we manage is just slower and more, sometimes more thoughtful. But I think it doesn't have to be always as thoughtful. You know? So I think the level of a very thoughtful decision only needs to be applied to like a very big problem, and I just feel I think we just need to take much more decisions much faster and just.
I think it must be. I mean, I've used so many times the word nightmare, but in such a fast scaling company, this must be very difficult, because sometimes when we're just now, you know, a team of like the dozen or maybe, but when we pile up people, we add a new person, I feel like it somehow it gets slower. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the more people, the more we are. The slower I feel in execution, and
the layers as well don't help. Yeah, so I mean, company layers, that's a big issue.
But do you have some kind of policies, or have you tried stuff that?
You have to constantly work against it. Yeah, so you have to constantly challenge yourself. What's the what's the fastest way of trying to do something, and do you really as well need it? Yeah? So I think there's in a company, in a big company, there's always. It's very easy to implement new policies because something actually goes wrong, like a new policy comes up, and then like, you know, a couple of months later, nobody actually knows anymore why this policy was actually set up. Yeah, so and then policy after policy actually line up. So you have to constantly actually work yourself against these policies to actually challenge yourself. Do we still need it? Is it still like the right thing? So I think there's this very important mentality of this day zero or day one mentality. If I would start it today, how would I build it? Yeah. And I think especially in these AI ages, it's so important that you actually ask yourself this question: how would I do it today if I would start it today? And I think in many aspects, I think the answer is always different than it actually is today. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
D0, D1. Remember that. Yeah. You know what, Robert? I think I have a new job position for you. I think I'll put you in Brussels for a year. Probably, I get with that mindset. Probably it would be useful. Like, do we really need this meeting? Do we really need to have an office in Strasbourg and a parliament in Brussels? I mean, do we? You know, there's a lot of
speaking of sleepless nights. No. No.
I get it. Yeah. Where can we follow you? Are you vocal on social media or in LinkedIn or on
Instagram? Not so much. That I do like a podcast. Like, you know, I force myself like to be a little more vocal because I feel like I think it's as well important to be more vocal on these matters, and as well I do my bit in it and try to contribute, like, you know, how it can be actually solved, because I really care about the state of Europe and how it actually can actually like stay relevant and be relevant and win as well, maybe even in races. So I'm a bit more vocal, but I don't like use Twitter or like X, or I have a bit of like LinkedIn, but I mean not very much.
Interesting. I have a very important question. When I've been walking through your offices, I've seen those chairs that were on the same directions, all of them. You know, aligned.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying or no?
No.
Like every stairs, you get all of the chairs that are perfectly aligned. I believe that.
Yeah.
And I was asking myself, I mean, who can be that insane? And I could be the one. So I'm not. It's not. I'm not. But I just loved it, and it's very graphical. But it's also it shows like I don't know. Yeah, graphical but organized, and something that is very lean. I loved it, but you don't know where it comes from.
No, I mean, I think there was some. I mean, I don't know where it comes from, but but maybe it's with very organized people that actually that line these chairs. But I don't know. We'll look at it. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, maybe I thought it was you. So that was one of my latest very interesting questions. Thank you very much. A couple of questions before I leave you. If you had the chance to meet Robert when he's broke in Mexico, and you could tell yourself something, what would you tell you?
What I would tell myself when I was. I would probably tell myself, like, I mean, there there was a very important, learning for you that you actually failed now once. Yeah. So, but don't worry, it will going to be fine. So, but I think for me, it was a very important learning at that stage that I did something which at all didn't work out. Yeah. And to a point where, I should have actually have had better plan Bs, and I was actually questioning myself quite a lot at the time. So, and I think probably that would I tell me to.
Yeah, because I've read you've had good internships. You worked at BCG, and you
I did a job offers at BCG, and
Morgan could have done something like serious instead of all of that.
But I think for me it was. I knew that this was not really my path somehow. So therefore, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start something. I wanted to I knew that it's in management consultancy that would not have been that would have not been my path to happiness.
Interesting. Do you read? I love getting good reading.
Book recommendation.
Yeah. Do you have? If you had the chance to offer a book, one.
At the moment, I read. What I would rather do is I hear audiobooks. Actually, when I have time, I love to just go for cycle trips, and just listen to audiobooks. So, and I listen a lot at the moment. A lot of audiobooks on AI, and I think there was actually one book that had quite an impact on me. It was Life 3.0, which is a book from Max Tegmark, which is a singularity scientist.
Okay.
What I found interesting is. When you read the book and then actually realize when it was written.
Just trying. So I see it. Okay.
It's not a very fun book, but it's an interesting book when you read it and realize when it was written.
2017. And 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah. So and then when you actually realize what has happened since then and how accurate actually some of the because it's rather like a prediction what happens actually towards when we actually get closer to an AGI and what are different steps actually happen. So I think that was actually an interesting book. Not easily consumable, but I think it made me think quite a lot.
I definitely read that book. Audiobook, I'll try it as an audiobook. But I don't like so much of audiobooks because they compete with podcasts in my ear. So I'm trying to stay with the reading. Okay, thank you very much. It was great. Most of the time when I get a chance to talk with the merchants, I try to negotiate something. So if the people listening to us order for the first time on Zalando, and if they get a code, do it. Can you do something for them?
Would need to check with the team. That's with our French country manager. So
okay, you think it's doable?
I would need to check what we can do.
I'll negotiate that for you guys. Yeah. Okay, I'll try to do my best. Sorry, I didn't tell you before, but I like to have it live. So right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great moment with you and very inspiring. And we'll try to launch in Germany soon. So now I have the recipe.
Good. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks.